want to talk about real estate generally, sort of at least our thoughts about what's happening in the business and trends. And I'm talking here domestically in the U.S. And then I'm happy to answer questions about anything you'd like to talk about, other than the Phillies, which I have no idea where that's going. Anyhow, so Liberty Property Trust. I'm going to repeat a couple facts, and I'll just slightly adjust them. So we are a real estate investment trust, and many of you may know what that is, and those who don't. So those were established in 1960. They are a vehicle established by the federal government. I always sort of characterize it sort of simplistically. So the theory was, how does John Q. Public own a piece of a mall or a piece of the Comcast Center or anything like that? Well, you can't, right? Real estate has generally been done, because you're in the business, right, a little bit. So partnerships, so a few people get together, they put capital in, they borrow money. So there was no way for John Q. Public to do it. So the thought was, we'll create this vehicle, and the way the vehicle will work is it'll be a public company. It will have shares, so people will buy shares. That's how they'll own a piece of assets. Well, if you're in the real estate business, you're going, why would I not do partnerships that have tax advantage? Why would I want to go be a public company and pay corporate taxes? So the trade-off was, we'll let you not pay corporate taxes, REITs. So we don't pay federal tax, we don't pay state tax, business taxes, pay property tax and all that. But for that, you need to effectively take your net operating income and distribute it as dividends. And so REITs are dividend stocks. And I'll talk about REITs a little bit more at the end when I talk about what's happening with real estate. But they have exploded over the last 20, 30 years as a vehicle by which real estate is owned and developed and operated in the United States. And the U.S. REIT model has now been replicated in 30 countries around the world. So there are now REITs. You can buy Japanese REITs, and you can buy Australian REITs, and you can buy European REITs. Pretty interesting. But and I'm happy to answer questions about that. But let me talk about Liberty. So we're REIT. REITs generally are in particular product types. So we are in office buildings and warehouses. And we do own a fair amount of it. We're actually, it's 105 million square feet, but that's okay. Who's counting? And it's actually 6 million square feet under development right now. And I'll talk about that in a minute. We are in 24 U.S. markets. So we run from Southern California, Phoenix, Minneapolis, Chicago, Dallas, and Houston. We're in South Florida, Tampa, Orlando, the Carolina, Atlanta, Greenville, Charlotte, Raleigh, Greensboro, Richmond, Virginia Beach, Washington, Jersey, here, Lehigh Valley, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Columbus. If that's 24, that's pretty good. If not, I can get to that. And then we're also in the UK. We have a modest presence in the United Kingdom, which is a little different, and is not. It's owned by the REIT, but is not covered by U.S. REIT law. So we actually do pay tax in the UK. Okay, that's where we're at. Out of that 106 million square feet, 18 million square feet is office buildings, and 88 million square feet is warehouses. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And we basically do everything that you do in real estate if you're a landlord. So we we own these assets, we lease them. We did 25 million square feet of leasing last year and about 800 plus transactions. We operate them, so we have Liberty Property Management teams that operate this real estate in the various markets. Obviously, we use third-party vendors for the services, janitorial or landscaping or whatever, but a lot of people run these assets. If you call up about a Liberty, if you're a Liberty tenant, you're going to get a Liberty person at the other end of the line. We also buy and sell real estate. We've been very active in that, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then we build buildings. We've historically been developers from our beginning. Currently, we have 29 buildings under construction, representing over 6 million square feet, and representing a total value of $1.4 billion, the biggest development pipeline we've ever had in our history. There happens to be this very big building that was mentioned earlier. So this Comcast building, which I'll talk also about in a minute, is $921 million by itself. But even if you take that out, the pipeline's still about $500 million, which is a pretty large number for us in our history. Speaking about our history, so how did we get here? So we were founded in 1972 by Bill Rouse. And those of you who are like me and have either gray hair or less of it might remember Bill. And Bill was a Baltimorean and came here to this region. It's a great real estate story. It's a big business story. So Bill, you might have heard of the Rouse Company. There was a guy, Jim Rouse. Jim Rouse is, famous in the history of real estate in America. So Jim Rouse is the person that developed the Cherry Hill Mall and sort of started malls in America, created the Rouse Company. He did Columbia, Maryland, literally bought thousands of acres and created a town. He did Faneuil Hall, that restoration, the first festival market in America in Boston. That was Bill's uncle. Bill's dad was the chief operating officer. So I always think, visualize Bill's Thanksgiving dinners. You learned the business probably by osmosis, right, with a family like that. But they had an interesting rule, at least this is the story, so sort of an anti-nepotism. So when Bill got out of University of Virginia, they said, oh yeah, you want to be in the business? Go, fine, go figure out how to be in the business. We're not hiring you, right? Now, I think he had a better Rolodex than Rolodexes were, what he had at the time. So Bill worked a little bit in Texas, a little bit in California. We ran into a guy in California. He said, well, you seem like an interesting young man, and I'll give you $10,000 to work for 6 months to go to southern New Jersey. I own 600 acres there that I've never even seen. I bought as part of some other transaction. Go figure out what we should do with it. Bill came, looked, and said, I think you should build some warehouses on it. Well, go figure out how to build out warehouses. And it was the old traditional real estate model, right? So you'd go to the bank and try to get a construction loan, and you'd hope the loan was 101% of the cost, and maybe get a developer fee, and then you'd build the building and try to get it leased and be able to put a mortgage on it. That was real estate, right? That's how we started. Because Bill started that project, and he was just employed there. And then one day the guy says, okay, this is great, you built up this portfolio, we're selling it. Bill called his dad and said, the guy's selling it. He said, well, now you've learned the golden rule. If you want to be in charge, you better own it yourself. So Bill took his 2% interest, which was $80,000, and started this company with 3 other guys. That's how we got started. So we started out in the development business. We started out with warehouses in Jersey. Bill quickly went out and bought real estate out on Route 202. So Great Valley Corporate Center, which is where we're headquartered, which at the time was a 2-lane road, again, for those of us who've been around long enough to remember this, and basically created the 202 corridor. Bill's the guy that came to Philadelphia and said, why are your buildings shorter than City Hall? And so Liberty Place was developed by this company. By the time our predecessors, we were Rouse and Associates at the time. That's what we traded as. And then we went public in 1994. And by the way, within the first year, Bill was sending people to Jacksonville and people that, so we've been a multi-market, multi-product company since our origins. 1994, we went public. By the way, tons of REITs went public that period of time. It has to deal with technicalities, not worth boring you with. To change the law and made it more attractive to be a REIT. And so often people say that's the beginning of the modern REIT era. It's 1994. So we've been around a while. Our IPO was about $700 million, so we've done, I guess, okay. Since we're building a building that's worth more than the entire company was when we started, and we're worth, as I said, about $8.7 billion. So that's a little bit about sort of who we are and what we do. In this region, most of you think of us with the Comcast Center, obviously, originally. We built that, developed it, and remained the managing partner, having 20% interest, and we're the managing partner and developer of the new Comcast Innovation and Technology Center. We're also the folks doing the Navy Yard project, and have built out that product down there also. So that's a little bit of just kind of the flavor of Liberty and who we are and what we've been doing over time. It gives you, I think, just give you some sense of that. In terms of how we operate financially, which is a little different than that historic model. So the way Liberty operates is we have an $800 million line. So we do not do construction loans. We just build the building and pay for the construction off the line. We have a balance sheet that's 60-40 equity and debt, and all our debt, almost all of our debt, is unsecured corporate notes. So we borrow money like GE or IBM. We don't mortgage our properties. We don't have mortgages on the assets. We do have some mortgages because we bought them with mortgages, things like that. We have some joint ventures that have mortgages, but why don't we mortgage? A couple reasons, and one is as current as yesterday. So we've been building a lot of buildings. We paid off one of our pieces of unsecured corporate debt at the beginning of March, so our line was up to $470 million. Last Thursday, we decided it looks like the market's pretty good. Let's go borrow some money. We got the teams organized. They started at 9 o'clock yesterday. By 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, we borrowed $400 million. You can't do that the old way, right? You know, go get a mortgage and, you know, title reports and environmental reports and, you know, 60, 90 days to close with a bank, right? So we find it massively efficient, right? Oh, by the way, 375. So it's 3.75 interest only 10-year paper. So that's tough to beat, right? That's part of the reason we went. When we went out yesterday morning, we thought we'd do 300, and the CFO came in and said, look, you want to do 4, we can do 4. There's enough demand, so we sent the 4. We're pretty convinced rates are going up soon. The other reason it's effective is it works with our business model. So you're in Houston, and you're one of our customers, and your business is doing well, and you're growing out of space. And you say, hey guys, I'm in 50,000 square feet, one of your warehouses, and I need to go to 75. But this building's full. So almost all of Liberty's assets are owned in parks. We like to own multiple buildings in a single location for a host of reasons. And we'll say, well, you know, that's not a problem because we'll just put you in the building across the street, which has 75, and we'll just rip up the lease here. And why don't you just go over there? And that ability to handle our customers and move them around, and we're done. We don't have to go to some lender and say, we just took some of your collateral and moved it across the street, right? We don't have to do that. Is massively effective in this field, right? So it works, the balance sheet is actually driven by the business model coming out versus the balance sheet driving the business model coming in. To sort of get where I'm going with that. So, so that's who we are and kind of what we're about. Let me talk a little bit more then about what we think is going on in real estate in the United States right now. And some of this I'll come back and talk about what we're doing in response to it. And I'm only going to talk about the 2 property types we own, which are office buildings and warehouses. I'm not going to talk about, I'm happy to answer any questions about anything, but that's not the business we're in. We're in those 2 products. About 7 years ago, we went through a pretty exhaustive analysis, strategy session. It took us over a year. We had outside consultants. And we said, look, we're a REIT, we're going to stay a REIT. We build these kind and own these kinds of buildings. But what should we look like 10 years from now? Where's the world going as best you can try to figure it out? And how should we position ourselves? And we came up with a variety of conclusions and had acted on those conclusions in the interim. We got a little bit waylaid with that Great Recession, which was everybody being in survival mode. So we took about 3 years out of our strategy execution. But the conclusions we reached were as follows. Number one, looking at office space, we got very nervous about office space long term. How much of it should we own? Where should we own it? And what type should it be? And the reasons we got nervous, number one, is a reason that we all know so well, which is technology. So what technology is doing is it's lowering the number of square feet per employee you need to put somebody in an office building. You don't need filing cabinets. You don't need bookshelves. You're a law firm. Remember your own law library? You don't need that, right? You're going to go on the... used to be there were data rooms. I'm old enough to remember a data room with a raised floor, big mainframes. Then we went to servers, racks. Then we went to virtualization. We could put multiple applications on servers. Now we can do the cloud. You don't need a data room at all. So that technology drive is meaning single employees, you don't need as much space. Add to that the way people are being configured in space. So the old model, I think the law firm is prototypical here, right? Partner gets the big office, associate gets small office, assistants are, inside the space, right? They don't get a window view, right? Your secretary's never got a window view. Conference rooms are when people came in, they're very elaborate. Open floor, went to cubicles. Now we go to open floor. And when you do all of that, again, you need less square feet per employee. Here is a dramatic example in this town. You only have to go a couple blocks from here, 17th and Vine, and you can go to where GlaxoSmithKline had their operation in Philadelphia. They occupied the entire One Franklin building, roughly over 600,000 square feet, and they occupied the entire building we had built across next to it, and we built the bridge across. Yeah, that was another couple 100,000 square feet. They were at 800,000 square feet paying rent. They were using about 400,000 square feet. So they'd already shrunk in terms of the number of people. We built them a brand new building at the Navy Yard. Spectacular project. It's a double platinum, by the way. So it's both the building's platinum and the interiors are platinum. This is from a normal. It's 205,000 square feet, and it houses the exact same number of people that were in the 400,000 square feet. Great for us, 15-year deal, right? At higher rents than they were paying. By the way, higher rents than they would have paid anywhere in town. They were willing to pay it to go into a brand new building. There are no file cabinets. There are no phones. There are no hardware phones. Everybody works off their laptop, Bluetooth, right? There are no assigned seats. You're assigned an area. You're finance, you go to that section. You're legal, you go to that section. There are no cubicles. It's all tables. There are no offices. Absolutely no offices. There are tables. Many of the tables elevate. You can stand and work if you want, right? Everybody gets a kind of a locker where you can store things, but you don't own a space. End of the day, there's no paper out. You want to file something, you have to make a phone call to somebody to justify why you need a file. Why isn't it digitalized? You know, why are we physically holding this document? Dramatic. Dramatic. They spent over a year putting every employee in space that looked like that we mocked up for them on one of the floors where they were, to get people oriented. Because literally they were afraid people would show up in this newspaper and not even know where to go. They were afraid people wouldn't like it. If they do a posting today, every employee that works for Glassstone in the United States wants to look in that building. Emails down by 30%. Because everybody can see everybody. Just walk around and talk to everybody. You don't have to do it, right? And by the way, if you went into space, you wouldn't think you were crowded. Big food area, fitness area, rooftop green, outside Wi-Fi everywhere. So by the way, you can work anywhere, right? You're always connected. Now that's extreme, but that's one of the things that worry us, that it would start looking like that, okay? You also have firms that have thought about, wait a minute, I'm renting space for you to be there, but you're rarely here. I've heard some folks here are, accountants and insurance people and whatever, right? You're out with customers a lot. So firms are looking at hoteling. In other words, and by the way, every Big Four firm here in town, when they renewed their lease, shrunk. They sat there and said, why am I paying for everybody to have a space? You'll come. You're going to be in here today, John. You can go to, there's your place, right? It's assigned to you because they know on average, X number of people are on the road, not in the office. So hoteling is another concept. Another concept is work from home. We had about 4 FedEx call centers in our portfolio. FedEx figured out, I don't need to pay you rent for a call center. I just give somebody access to that. They can do this at home. All 4 are gone as a physical reality. So if you call FedEx to find out where your package is, you might be talking to somebody in their kitchen, right? So all of that made us scared about office space, right? And how much we wanted and where we wanted it. So we went through an effort, we've been through an effort now to massively downsize our office portfolio. We've sold 15 million square feet of office space in the last 3 or 4 years. We plan to sell another 4 or 5 million square feet of it this year. We have exited, we were in 16 office markets, as a subset of that 24. And we have exited now 9 of them, and we'll probably exit 2 more. We don't want to be in what we call smaller markets. We tend to call sort of thin and narrow. So these are small. Milwaukee we got out of, Richmond we got out of, Greensboro, Jacksonville. Great towns to live in, whatever. But they don't have big office markets. If a single guy leaves the market with 200,000 square feet, it's going to take forever to fill it back up. The other thing that's happening is that customers want the best space. So there's this movement to go to A space. So the portfolio we own We have developed more LEED buildings than any other firm in the country. So we've done 86 LEED buildings to date. We also have we've done 130 Energy Star buildings, which is a technique by which you measure your energy. It's an EPA sponsor. So right now, 70% of our office buildings are either LEED or Energy Star. Because we think that's what customers want. Customers want A space. And one of the reasons they want A space are employees. So probably many of us have sons and daughters who are in this generation, the millennials, right? So they want to be in collaborative space. They want to live in town. They prefer not to commute. They prefer to be in an environmentally sensitive building. And there aren't enough of them for employers. So what we thought was going to start to happen, and we're seeing it, is employers are following employees in terms of location, instead of employees following employers. We all think back, IBM went to Westchester County and built a big campus. I can work for IBM. I'll commute out to Westchester, right? Perfect example here is Vanguard. By the way, our biggest single customer. We're the only people they rent space from. So I love Vanguard. I think they do an awesome job. But they're out there, right? So they run shuttles from the Paoli train station. They've got workers living in Manioc, workers living in town that go out. They seriously have to think about whether they want to come into town to access that labor pool. So suburban office space is challenged, B space is challenged, smaller markets are challenged. We hopefully responded accordingly, shrunk that footprint. We're not out of the business. Obviously, we're building at the Navy Yard, we're building Comcast. We have a terrific project so we're in Phoenix. We have a terrific project in Phoenix where we're building brand new product. But we think the office business is going to be a business that requires more about development, new product, and that there will be functionally obsolete buildings that will struggle for reuse. Historically old office buildings, this town is a perfect example of this, terrific example of this. So we've taken all of our 20s and 30s and 40s office buildings and we've converted them into apartments and hotels. Part of the reason is they lay out perfect for it. They're double barrel they needed natural light, right? So they were narrow footplates. They were double barrel corridors and they're easy to convert. A building like this is a rectangle or a square. It's a more modern building. But this building doesn't jump out at you and say, I want to be an apartment building or I want to be a hotel. So the day these buildings don't function as office buildings or have a demand for them, I think they will struggle for reuse. That's what's happened in the One Franklin. Go back to Blackstone. That building has been empty since they left. And they're now trying to figure out whether it should be a hotel or apartment building. Like, what am I going to do with it? Right? We sold our building that we leased it to a school, not to an office user. The other side of this was about industrial buildings, warehouses. We've been in this business a long time, and we looked at where that's going and what should we do in response to that. And we reached an entirely different conclusion. And the conclusion we reached was that that's a business that's going to grow over time. So there's a simple reason, which is population growth. So we did an analysis, and for every person in every metro, you need about 50 to 60 square feet of warehouse space. Stunningly consistent. Just for all the stuff, right? Where are these paper plates coming from? Where's Coach storing those? When you go to your office, where's the paper pad coming from? When you go to CVS, where do they get their supplies? Just think about all the stuff that has to be somewhere to every day have this region work. So as long as the population grows, it actually has a higher correlation than employment. There'll be a need for more warehouses. That was one. Secondly was a change in distribution patterns. So big companies are very smart about inventory. You all know this, right? Inventory is a cost. So you'd love to decrease your inventory. Logistics and distribution is a cost. So you're trying to squeeze down your supply chain. So the way companies have looked at that is they go through very elaborate analysis about where to put buildings that store their stuff and then how that stuff gets to their customer. So where's it coming from? It's coming on a container from China. Is it docking in LA, Long Beach? Is it going on a train to a warehouse in Chicago and then being distributed across the United States? Like, what are all those patterns? And the answer is that all these companies, whether it's Procter & Gamble or Walmart or just name anybody you can think of, a retailer, a consumer products firm, a food firm, go through thinking about this a lot. And what we saw was they often change their patterns. And when they change it, they need new product. And when they need new product, someone's got to build it for them, and that's a business way. So we wanted to be more in that business. We just completed last year the biggest warehouse we've ever built. 1.8 million square foot warehouse. That warehouse is bigger square footage wise than a Comcast measured. It's a very big building. It's in Shippensburg, south of Harrisburg, if you don't know where Shippensburg is. Why? Why? Because they made a decision they'd take various product lines and put them all in one place and have trucks bring multiple brands to various places they have to distribute. So whether it's to Walmart or whether it's to CD, whoever needs Procter & Gamble products. So that's happening all the time. We currently own 1,900 acres across the United States, almost all industrial land, in order to be able to be responsive to the needs for new warehouse distribution product from different customers. That's one. So it's population growth, distribution patterns. The third reason we thought industrial would get bigger is e-commerce, which has absolutely taken off. So, we're all home at night, we're at the computer, you're a runner, you want some new sneakers, you want a new jersey, you want a new cap or whatever, you're going to order your 3 things and push the button at 10 o'clock because you want it tomorrow morning. You want it from FedEx so I can run tomorrow night, right? That's what you want. In order for Amazon to satisfy that requirement, like what actually happens? What happens is that order goes to a warehouse, what they call fulfillment center. And if you looked at it real fast, you'd say it looks like every other warehouse I've ever seen. If you go up the Jersey Turnpike, right, you see all these big warehouses, right? They all look the same. And it's kind of true, but not exactly true. So in the old warehouse, the P&G warehouse we just finished, right, which is consumer product to store, it's racked. There's racking, there's big pallets, there's forklifts, there's tractor trailers on each side. This tractor trailer bringing product, this tractor trailer grabbing product, taking it to stores. It's an operation that's pretty predictable. So I'm going to do all the Jersey stores on Monday, and I'll do all the Delaware stores on Tuesday. And so it's generally a 2-shift operation. Maybe even closed on weekends. Kind of predictable, right? E-commerce. You just put that order in. Somebody has to physically go get the sneakers and the hat and your little outfit, put them in a box, put a label on it for UPS. So what that building looks like on the inside is it's mezzanine, same building, 30-foot clear. And instead of racks going up 30 feet, it's as if it's 2 floors. And there are racks where there's, and think about this. So just take the sneaker example. They have to have every size of every color you want. So whereas a CVS warehouse, we have one in Orlando, has 27,000 products in it, an Amazon warehouse might have 150,000 discrete items by size, color, whatever, in order to fulfill what you need. So somebody has to go grab those 3 things. Here's how Amazon works. The computer knows the weight of everything you just asked for. It knows the box it'll fit in. It delivers the box to the conveyor. So the person who grabs the things now has the box that they're going to fit in. It is weighed as it goes out. And if the weight is wrong, they know they've mispackaged it, the wrong products inside. They bounce it out. The label's printed. The tape is automatically provided for the person to wrap it. So they, it's the classic, I don't want to send more tape than we need. So it's so to do that, that building runs 24/7. Because gosh knows when you place your order and push the little shopping cart, right? So I need people there all the time. I need tractor trailers on one side and UPS or FedEx trucks on the other side. I need employees. I need lots of employees. Between Thanksgiving and the end of the year, I need 3 times the employees I have any other time of the year. So I need a big parking lot, and I need to be near those workers. And those workers tend to be, that's a kind of a part-time job, and what that job pays, you're going to drive them more than half an hour. He's not going to commute an hour for a part-time job at Amazon. So those buildings are creating a parallel system of distribution in America. So I've got the stores are distributed one way and e-commerce is another way. For us at the moment, that's great because everybody needs, well, you can ask the question later, what happens if all the stores go away and those first sets of warehouses become surplus? That's an interesting question. But for the next 10 years, we think we're okay. So we have dramatically changed the size of our industrial footprint. We bought a portfolio in the fall of 2003. It was 23 million square feet for $1.4 billion. That's what got us into Southern California, Dallas. We weren't there before. So part of the decision we made 7 years ago where we were going to be a national industrial player, and here we are. So we were in 24 industrial markets, 8 of the top 10, 14 of the top 20. The markets we're in handle 67% of all the warehouse requirements in the United States. So we think we're in the right place. We can build off of that, double the size, triple the size of the warehouse, the amount of warehouse space we have in the company. So it gives us great growth prospects. So that's what we see happening with those two product types over time. And I'll close with sort of what's happening kind of with the space generally, and then maybe open it up. So I mentioned REITs at the beginning. So when REITs in 1994, they changed the law to make it a little bit more attractive a vehicle. The entire market cap of all REITs was about $9 billion on the New York Stock Exchange. Today, there's 260 REITs on the New York Stock Exchange worth $880 billion. Take malls. It's kind of very far. If you pay attention to Simon's up, trying to buy another REIT. So number 1 and 3 got together to take out number 2. It'd be interesting. Top 5 REITs in the mall space own 90% of all Class A malls in America. They've basically all been consolidated. In our space, like warehouses, all the industrial REITs, there's 8 of us, we only own 4% of the product. So what I think you're going to see is the REITs will continue to own more of it, right? Like we have access to capital, we have scale, et cetera. So what's happened in real estate, and again, go back 30 years ago, it was an industry that was a little bit of a black box. Like what actually happens? How do people make deals? What do partnerships look like? So market information was hard to get. Who knew what real rents were, et cetera. So that same technology that's affecting office use is affecting the transparency of this business. So today, there's a company called CoStar, and you can find out all kinds of information about what got leased and what it got leased for and what's available and how much. You have 240 REITs every quarter giving you public information about what we rented space for, how much it cost, what we bought it for, what's it costing us to build, and that's a lot of information, right? There's a company called Real Estate Analytics will tell you about every sale that happened in the U.S. Real time in commercial real estate. So commercial real estate has become a much more acceptable asset class to invest in. You're not as nervous as you used to be. So pension funds, endowments, wealthy individuals are all putting money into it. There is a flow of capital to own real estate in an institutional sense that didn't exist 30 years ago. In Japan, it's a big thing. So if you're an individual, individuals invest in funds that buy U.S. REIT stocks because we produce this dividend that's much higher than any other investment vehicle they can find at the moment. So there's been inflows of Japanese retail money into the space. All of that is driving the pricing of real estate, which is, it's pretty expensive. So you're hearing incredible numbers. You probably just heard there was a Chinese insurance firm buying the Waldorf Astoria at over $1,000 a square foot. And those are pretty impressive numbers. You want to buy a warehouse in Southern California, fully leased, good Amazon 10-year credit. Folks know what a cap rate is. Cap rate is income in the numerator, purchase price in the denominator. Low cap rate, very high price. That'll go for a 4.5 cap. It's like mind blowing. These are the highest prices paid for this kind of real estate in anybody's kind of memory, right? And part of it is it's solid, it's a solid asset. I own it, it's cash, it feels good. But part of it is that the asset class has matured and is viewed as an absolutely safe bet, right? Some of this capital, by the way, is exiting places of instability. right? Rule of law matters. So if you're in property right, I actually know that I can enforce my lease, I can enforce my ownership, et cetera. So we just think it's a kind of a great time to be a REIT. It's a great time to be in this business. Economy's pretty decent. And so we're having some fun doing it. Maybe with that I'll close. Leave some time. Good.